Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Get Back Guys podcast. I'm Kyle in the hosting chair this time around, and joining me as always is the Weaver boys themselves, Alex and Nick. How's it going, guys?
Hey, it's going.
Good.
He's here today.
Great.
He's here today. Kyle's here. He's back for two.
I know.
Two back-to-backs. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
It's a rare sighting, and I'm hosting?
What?
What's happening here? What are we doing?
We forced him to do it.
Totally not. So thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. Make sure to check us out on all, podcast platforms. Spread the word to your friends about this show. But anyway, let's dive in. We got sports to talk about. A lot of sports stuff to bring up here. We'll go into the NBA first because Lakers are up 3-1. A lot of exciting stuff happening with the finals going on. So Weaver boys, and especially Alex, because Heat fan is crying right now. What do we think of what's going on right now with it?
Also, real quick, we do clip outs on YouTube. So if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, but you're kind of curious, sometimes you don't get time to check everything out, make sure to check us out on YouTube. We got clip outs. But yeah, Heat. I said on last week's episode, I felt pretty confident going in. I felt we could beat them. Would we? I'm not 100% sure. I don't think I said a game it would go to. I don't think I said 6 or 7 games. Did I? You guys remember it all?
You said you thought 7 was possible.
But
we
right,
kind of
you
agreed.
Said you'd be shocked if it was 7.
I said 5 or 6. And you said, I think 7's possible.
I could see it going to 7. I think we could really win this series. I think we had the matchups. The biggest problem we've had, the first game was awful. I mean, a blowout. They were being blown out. Goran and Bam, I think it was the third quarter, both get hurt. That is huge, and that changed the rest of the finals. It really did. Game 2, we ended up being more competitive and losing, which was good. And then we steal Game 3. Which I love because Game 3, they did not look great. And then last night's game, the Lakers, honestly, I did not think looked amazing on the floor. But their Caldwell Pope, I remember he hit the first few shots. He hit their first 8 of 12 shots. And I remember thinking, if we're letting Caldwell Pope go off, and I don't think, and I mean, obviously it was only 12 points. And I'm like, if the Lakers don't play great, but Caldwell Pope is going, that isn't good for us if we're letting these depth guys get going, because it needs to be put on the shoulder of their stars. And the game, I mean, the series has kind of been on the shoulder of LeBron and Anthony Davis, which you expect. It makes sense. They're the best on the court for a reason. But I think we've been more the only game we haven't been competitive in is Game 1. We could have won the other 2 games. It's a bummer we didn't. I'm not shocked that this is the outcome that's happened. I think we still have a chance to push it to 6. It's going to be a tough feat. I don't know if it's going to happen. Goran coming back might be big. Bam coming back was big last night. So I'm not bummed. I'm glad we made it to the finals. I'm not saying we've lost yet. I think there's a shot we could still do it, but the chances of percentage has gone down significantly. But I am glad we got a chance to be in the finals. That's the big thing for me, because by the time we film and air next, it's going to be over, even if it goes to 7. So unless they give an extra day off, which I'm just not sure of, but assuming they won't go to 7, because it's probably unlikely. But I'm just happy that they got here and fought this hard. They're the underdogs. I saw today that they're the clear destination for a top free agent now by execs, which makes sense. Part of me is also saying, I think Tyler Hero's about to become a superstar in the league. I mean, we've obviously talked about how Bam is pretty much about there. And I think with Jimmy there for the next 3 years, we're going to be pretty good. And I think Hero, he's breaking records that Tatum had, set the other his rookie year and guys like that. He's good, and he's only 20. Got him for 4 years locked down right now. I do want to – Giannis comes, I'm going to be singing and the praises. But part of me is also let's just fill out the team around them and go get the players that will fix the depth like we did with Iggy and Crowder, who should both be back as well next year. So I think we'll be a real contender again next year. I'm excited, but sorry I went on a little bit there. But, Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, we're taking LeBron James for granted a little bit.
I never
and
do.
People are not necessarily you, but I think a lot of the media and everything he is averaging roughly 28, 11, and 9. And we're talking about how he's been playing bad. Like, yeah, he had not a great first half of the last game, even though he was awesome in the second half.
He had a lot of turnovers was the big thing in the last game.
He had 6 turnovers, didn't shoot well, but come on. He's been dominant for the most part. And yeah, Anthony Davis hit a big shot. And it's just a guy almost averaging a 30-point triple-double through 4 games of the finals. When you have a 3-1 lead and people are trying to nitpick, I think it shows just how incredible LeBron James is. It's like, oh, you're only averaging 28, 11, and 9. Like, man, in 2017, in 2017, you averaged a 33-point triple-double. So what are we doing here? It's like, okay, he's the only one ever to average triple-double in the finals. So I also think back to the first game of the playoffs for the Lakers, where you see a lot of the overreactions to the play of KCP, to the play of Caruso, who didn't have a great game. It was before Rondo came back, and all the talk was LeBron needed to be more aggressive. And now you come down here in the finals, a 2-1 lead. The game is almost, I think it's a couple point different, about 3 minutes left in the game. Jimmy Butler misses an open 3-pointer. LeBron drives down, passes it to KCP. KCP hits a big shot. My mind immediately went to that Portland game where LeBron showed faith in his teammates. And in this game, they came through. KCP, Kuzma, and Anthony Davis all had each a huge 3-pointer at the end of the fourth quarter. And of course, LeBron played incredible in the second half as well. And it just shows how good I think he is. And I'm curious to see, this hasn't been his greatest finals. It's still better than what 95% of every player has ever played in the finals. And I'm bummed that Bam's hurt. Bam's a monster. You could feel the difference on the court. Jimmy Butler had an amazing 40-point triple-double, which was incredible in game 3 to kind of keep the Heat alive. But you kind of just feel that they need Bam. They need that second guy because Jimmy Butler, how many of those great games does he have in him? Well, last night it seemed like his tread started loosening up a little bit in that second half. And so I'm bummed that Bam did get hurt because I think he's an absolute stud. But yeah, I think it's just easy to take LeBron James for granted and the kind of things that he's able to do on a nightly basis. And also, if you'd have told me in 2012 that LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Rajon Rondo would be the 3 best players on a team that's up 3-1 in the finals, all of them on the Los Angeles Lakers, I would not have believed you. And Rondo, it's pretty impressive to see that happen. Yeah, and that's another criticism, or I think people LeBron's been less ball dominant in this finals than we've seen him be since at least 2017 with Kyrie Irving. But for them to play good, they need Rondo to be playing good, and Rondo has to have the ball. That's just the type of player that he is. And so you're seeing a little more of LeBron just deferring to Rondo to help get more out of those players, because in the series that LeBron averages the most points, he has lost historically in the finals. The series where he averages close to 30, and gets the other teammates involved, they win championships.
Now, did you say LeBron is the only player to have a triple-double in the finals, or average a triple-double in the finals?
Average a triple-double.
Okay, I heard you wrong at first, and I was like, that's untrue. Jimmy just had his first. And there's a bunch of players that have. But yes, average, yeah. I'm with you now.
Yeah, he in 2017, LeBron averaged a 33, 35-point triple-double.
Yeah.
Only player ever.
And I love LeBron, so if they win, it's not the worst loss I've ever had. So I'm, the Mavs loss for the Heat will always be what haunts me. So, losing to LeBron won't sting that bad. But I think we could still take this next game. I think it's very possible. Bam and Dragic come back. Bam getting more healthy and push it to 6, I think could happen. And we really should have won that game. And I agree with you. LeBron is dishing it out because he also, I think, gets that if his bench is not as good as ours and his role players are not as good, but they need to be good because ours are better and we'll beat them. And I think that's shown and why it's been so competitive. I mean, Duncan, Nunn came in and has been balling out a little bit. like a hero, obviously. Like our guys are balling out a little bit, and we've been fighting, and I like it. I hope they win game 6.
There's a reason you guys are in
Game
the finals.
5.
You were a very quality team. You just happen to run into LeBron James and Anthony Davis, who are 2 of the top 7 players in basketball.
Yeah, and they want to leave more than anybody else, so they're trying to end it quickly.
Yeah, and also I think Anthony Davis, he didn't have a great game 3, but in game 4 he didn't score as much. He only had 22 points. But defensively, he's a monster. And so, they don't necessarily. LeBron understands that he doesn't have to drop 50 a night, and that he's taken teams and bad teams and just done it all himself. We saw that in 2007, got swept by the Spurs. In 2018, we saw him have a 58-8 game in game 1 against the Golden State Warriors, a monster team. And they end up losing that game because his teammates made bad plays that were out of his hands, even though they could have overcome a huge deficit. So I think LeBron's play, I think people like to question him when he doesn't drop a 35-point game. And he's an incredible player for sure.
And blowouts are only fun if it's your team. So at least we've been competitive and competed, and we could have won those. We could be up 3-1. Honestly, I think we could have taken those both these losses pretty easily. The score is close, and we had some shots just didn't fall. So I'm proud of the boys.
There's one more stat real quick that I want to bring up. I don't know if you got picked up on it last night. It's again with LeBron. It blows my mind how good he is. The Lakers are 56-0 when leading going into the fourth quarter. So if they have a lead through 3, they have not lost a game this year. That's the best in NBA history.
That's insane. I didn't know that.
And so the only other, and granted they've played a few less games, but it's counting regular season and postseason because the season's a little bit shorter. They haven't had quite as many opportunities. But LeBron, the only other teams that have only lost 1 game is the 95-96 Bulls. And oddly enough, there's another older team. I think it's maybe a Celtic team or a Lakers team, even older. But the 2018 Cleveland Cavaliers were 70-1, I believe, or 70-1. So go leading. So the last 2 years that LeBron James has been healthy, in 2018 and 2020, his teams have lost 1 game while leading going into the fourth quarter. That is unbelievable stuff, and that just shows how good he is in the fourth, and that's going to make it hard for any team, especially when KCP and Anthony Davis are burying threes alongside of it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Love LeBron. Sure. I'll be happy for him to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great for me either way. I mean, a casual Laker fan, I get to see another championship being won with LeBron, and on the opposite side, my best friend who's a Heat fan right here, he's going to, be happy. So, hey, it's been a good time for me.
I won't be crushed. I don't know about happy,
but
I won't be crushed.
The Bam injury is a bummer, even though I don't think it would have changed the outcome of this series. I want him to get the national recognition that he deserves as a potential superstar.
Totally.
And Goran, too, because he's the biggest shot creator on the team. But anyway, Kyle, what's next?
All right. Well, we're going to shift away from the NBA to talk about some sports news, some NFL sports news. That's what our segment is called temporarily until we come up with a better segment name. But for the NFL anyway, we got Bill O'Brien being fired after 4 weeks of taking the Texans to 0-4. We got Dwayne Haskins being benched in favor of Kyle Allen, and the Titans' COVID situation just keeps getting worse and worse. So which of these you guys want to talk about?
I've got
first?
one.
Go ahead.
Because I want to mention this. Let's talk about Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins didn't get just benched. Dwayne Haskins went from the potential starter, the Ron Rivera saying, this is my guy, starter, to we've backing him to the third string quarterback.
Right.
Not just benched, he's the third string quarterback. That is a big deal. I don't know what's going on down there with that awful organization with the TBDs that they have ran for the last decades, whatever. But I feel bad for the guy. It was too soon. Dwayne Haskins, has he been elite? No. Has he been good? He's been average. But you're not going to get rid of a young guy and kill his confidence, I think, doing that. I don't think Kyle Allen is going to put you over the edge. If it was Alex Smith right off the bat, I would really get this move this early. The only real, you just hurt the guy. At least see what you have in him. Give him a full season. At least Mitch Trubisky got a full season and more. Like, at least give Dwayne a full season. If you're awful, go get Trevor Lawrence and send it out then. But this is ridiculous. My only idea is that Ron Rivera thinks Kyle Allen, knowing his system already, being a young guy and having made some decent plays when he was with starting when Cam got hurt last year, I just think maybe they think, hey, maybe we can take the division with him until Alex is ready, because the division is so bad and only like a half game back. They might feel that that Dwayne's not going to do it, but Allen might. I don't know. That's the only real reason I can justify it. But poor Dwayne.
I think it's a bad move, to be honest. And I love Ron Rivera, and Dwayne Haskins hasn't been that good, but I think Kyle Allen's just flat out worse than him. He had on a per throw basis last year for any quarterback that started a decent volume of games, by far the most turnover-worthy plays occurring the most often, and that's with Jameis Winston throwing 30 interceptions, but he also wasn't going to throw 30 touchdowns. They won a few games early in that season when they switched to him, and I think it was just a vibe thing. It was not because Kyle Allen, I don't think, is that talented. I hope Alex Smith takes over, and honestly, if Alex Smith takes over and isn't that good, guess who might be coming to town next year? Cam Newton. Ron Rivera, Cam Newton. They might move off. They don't need to. They can move off. They can move off of Haskins. They can move off of.
So you think if Cam balls out? What if Cam balls out though? Continues to ball out with New England? Why don't they just keep him in New England?
Because what if they don't want to pay him? I'm not saying it's the likely possibility, but I think it is potential if Washington doesn't lose enough games to be in kind of potentially the Lawrence and Drew Lance sweepstakes, and Cam Newton becomes a quarterback and they go through all three of these guys and none of them look that great. Ron Rivera and Cam Newton love each other, and could be an interesting kind of thing there. So
where they get Trevor Lawrence.
Something to keep your eye on potentially, because if they plugged him in and whipped that defense to be pretty good, could be a decent team.
And if Alex Smith comes back, though, and balls out, that team might take the division. Hope not.
Oh, it's true. I kind of hope Alex Smith comes back and plays good.
Me too, even though I don't like the TBDs. Kyle?
Yeah, I'm just in the same boat as you guys. I think it's kind of a move that is a bit too soon. Yeah, he's not playing great football necessarily, but I think the dude's trying and working really hard, harder than most rookie QBs, at least in the past couple of years. We've seen a lot of them not work as hard as this guy has, at least when I've been looking into him anyway. It seems like he's doing a really good job at improving his body and improving his QB skills, though they're not showing up on the field, unfortunately. Yeah, it must be either a decision within the organization, which again is just another thing that doesn't make sense about them. Again, it's a bit too quick of a move, I think. I think you still need to give this guy more time to adjust, especially in this year. This year's just nuts to begin with. So, yeah, I'm bummed. I wanted him to keep trying to improve himself, and maybe Kyle Allen will still play bad and Dwayne Haskins will get the start again. I don't know. We still don't know how Alex Smith is doing, if he's fully ready to be back on the field yet, though he's activated. I don't know. So that one's a bit disappointing.
Also, you know what's odd? Oh, you go first.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Dwayne Haskins had what? Didn't he have 3 new head coaches within a year and a half or something like that? I read
Jake Gruden, the other guy, and
he went through a bunch of. Even if you're a backup at that point, you're relearning a whole new offense too, and that changes the entire narrative too. Their organization is bad. They've got one of the worst receiving cores. They haven't had any real consistency at running back outside of an 82-year-old Adrian Peterson that they had for 2 years. I also feel bad for him there because it's the same kind of feeling with Sam Darnold, and I like Darnold more, but it's they've been destroyed by coaches too, so how do we even know if they're good? Obviously some talent are going to take over, but some guys might need that coach to be great, like a Flacco who got that year, who had a couple great years. I just wanted to point that out. But go ahead,
Yeah,
Nick.
well, kind of bouncing off that real quick before my other point. Haskins, it was kind of a project coming in, and I know Ron Rivera wasn't there when they drafted him. But like, if you put Haskins on the Buffalo Bills, I bet you he's balling out right now. Maybe not as good as Josh Allen, but I bet you he's putting up a lot better numbers. This guy is a project. He needs development, and he needs people to trust in him. And not saying he would ever pan out, but this is certainly not helping his progress. I think certainly making things worse. And I think it's odd for Ron Rivera. Why is he sticking with Kyle Allen when Kyle Allen was the quarterback that got him fired, basically? Like, Cam Newton gets hurt, Kyle Allen comes in, and they fall apart throughout the season after they win a couple of games. And then Ron Rivera gets fired at the end of the season. And then he brings Kyle Allen back, and he's like, this is the guy that I want starting for my team.
I don't know
Honestly,
if Kyle Allen's the full reason he gets fired. I don't think
it's not, but it's just an odd thing, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I think it's more on Cam's injury,
but you couldn't win with this guy on a team that was just as talented as this Washington team is right now.
Oh, they're more talented.
Definitely more. Well, there was more offensive talent last year in Carolina. At least Christian McCaffrey was a good player. I mean, I know Terry McLaurin's decent.
Great player.
McLaurin's great. I love him.
But I just think it's an odd choice to go to Allen, and I hope the best thing I can think of is that they think Alex Smith is going to be ready in a few weeks, and they're just going to see if something pops with Allen. If not, they're going to roll with Alex Smith, and if so, they could win a few games.
I wonder if Alex Smith isn't ready. He might not be fully ready yet, or they might have just gone right to him.
Well, I mean, we saw Derek Carr struggle heavily after he didn't have as bad of an injury to the leg, but he struggled. I mean, he's still not been the same.
No one's ever come back from this injury that Alex Smith has had. It's either ended careers or your career ends.
Yeah, but anyway. Alex Smith's had a weird career where he's, was not very good for a long time and turned himself into a quality quarterback. So I believe in the guy.
He was average. All right, Kyle, what do you think since the boys took over here, the brothers took over?
No, I'm still on the same page as you guys with it all. Even if Rivera thinks it's a decision to win a bad, division in general, like it just doesn't seem like that's really necessary. But I feel like it still is a building year for them, and even if they win the division, okay, so what? It's a bad division, and it's not really proving us anything. So it's just one thing after another with this decision where I just am scratching my head going, what purpose does it serve? I just think it just doesn't seem right across all levels. That's all I have to say about it. But with that said, what do we think about the Texans deciding to fire GM and head coach Bill O'Brien?
I just hope Bill O'Brien got to take the bag of Cheetos he got for Nuke with him. Like that's just all. That's the first thing I hope is that he even. No, I think Watson ate them all and just stared at him in spite. Get him out of there. I like Bill O'Brien enough as a coach. He's been an awful head coach, and he's been a horrible GM. I mean, he's been Chip Kelly bad. He might be been worse than Chip Kelly bad as a GM. There's only one guy who's been able to be a coach and a GM, a head coach and GM, and it's Bill Belichick. Nobody else has been able to really do it successfully. Get him out of there. I low-key kind of hope because he is a good offensive coach, I think, and he's had great years when he's had the weapons. I kind of want Philly to bring him in as an OC because I think we're missing that structure for just a good OC coach because we have all these guys doing weird stuff. I wouldn't mind an outside guy coming in to kind of help right the ship, but if he doesn't, we'll get into our teams in a minute here. I'm not dying for it, but it's something I wouldn't mind happening. But, yeah, they needed to get rid of him. Doing it this early is a bit of a shock, but now you've got the rest of the season to figure out who the heck's going to be your coach and where you want to take your team. The fact that J.J. Watt and the D coordinator are getting into shouting matches with Bill O'Brien before the game is not good. He ran himself out of that town with his record. Josh McDaniels going there shouldn't happen. I don't think Josh McDaniels is a good coach either, actually, or a great head coach anyway. But yeah, I think they need to get the Ravens OC. I've been chanting that for a year. I think they need to get him. But
Rick Roman.
Anyway,
yeah.
Yep.
No, I think this was the right decision. I mean,
yeah.
Over the years, we kind of saw some baffling decisions made by Bill O'Brien as a head coach. but even bigger head scratchers as a GM. And the fact that the Texans decided to give him a chance to be the GM has always been weird to me. And it clearly showed with all the trades that he made, trade away guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Dwayne Brown, Jadeveon Clowney, and picking up, getting back Brandon Cooks and David Johnson, but it still isn't helping your team at all necessarily. Like, there was never any things that he never made any good decisions, I don't think, is what I'm trying to say, whether he was the GM or the head coach. I'm really hoping that this means that the Texans organization have learned their lesson and they understand that you need to hire a GM and a head coach, and you got to make sure that these two are going to be on the same page right from the get-go. And I think a lot of upcoming possible GMs and head coaches are really going to look at the Texans organization first when it comes to new job openings because of Deshaun Watson. The fact that they got a young stud of a quarterback is going to be so appealing. Plus, they still have some good pieces there to where it's not like a major rebuild, but they just need to be on the same page in order to make sure that they can get on the right track with this team. Because this team is, we've seen it happen with Bill O'Brien. They're a fringe playoff team, like they get to the wild card divisional rounds, but yet they can't win beyond that. But I really think they can push it if they have the right guys in charge, and they just didn't have that for many years, and now they could really do that, especially with Deshaun Watson. So I think it was the right call. Hopefully Bill O'Brien bounces back, learns from his mistakes, becomes a coordinator with someone, maybe the Eagles, but otherwise this was good for the Texans. Even if it was week 4, this made more sense, unlike the Dwayne Haskins thing. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, long time overdue. Thank goodness. I was nervous that Deshaun Watson, the rest of his career, was going to be held in mediocrity, where he's going to be in the shadow of Lamar Jackson and Patty Mahomes because of his coach and organization really holding him back. Honestly, another head coach potential is Kansas City's offensive coordinator.
Yep,
he should already have a job as a head coach, so he would be awesome. And I think it might take a year or two after this year for them to really recover from what Bill O'Brien has done back to a full contender, because he's made some terrible decisions. He's been one of the worst play callers in situational football in the NFL for years, so thank goodness he's gone. I've heard he's a good guy. That's all I'll say. Like I hope he can turn it around as coordinator somewhere, because you don't wish bad on someone. But it's been long overdue. So I'm excited for Deshaun Watson and the Texans' future now, and I hope they get a good head coach and establish a culture, because Deshaun Watson can take a team to the Super Bowl. He just needs a little more talent, really.
Our schedule takes don't work now, because now they're going to get some versatility back, huh?
Well,
they're supposed to not have it the rest of the year.
We don't know that. I mean, maybe it gets worse.
Look, they'll get it back with any coach.
Yeah, all bets are off at this point. Let's just see what happens with the rest of this year. That's what the Texans are probably thinking. Let's see what we got.
Yeah. Should we rattle through COVID real quick?
Yeah, so Titans, they're getting COVID all over the place now. Apparently, they're also having practices away from the stadium, which probably has
some
led
high school.
Yeah, at some high school. They followed the Tom Brady method that was done in the offseason, but it backfired here. And plus, we also just heard that Stephon Gilmore, the cornerback of the Patriots, also got COVID himself. So it's spreading along the Titans organization, but it also looks like it's starting to affect other teams a little bit. What do you guys think about that?
Nick? You want to go first?
Sorry, I didn't hear a word. My speaker just cut out. And just came back.
I was wondering
Nick,
why
what do you think of the
confused?
COVID ramped up.
COVID, it's a little nerve-wracking, because the Titans' 2 more positive tests came out, because hopefully it wasn't because they were working out together, which I know
it said it was. No, a picture came out saying they were working out.
No, but I'm hoping that wasn't the cause of it spreading. You know what I'm saying? Sure. Like, I know they broke protocol,
Probably
but hopefully like 2. But also it's like they're human beings, and they're trying. I saw some Titans players tweet like, this isn't their job if they're not working out. Like their families aren't going to have any money all of a sudden. So like, I understand the passion behind it. And so I think overall, I mean, the Titan situation is a little worse than what I expected, but we saw, Stephon Gilmore also tested positive, but it looks like no one else has tested positive. So hopefully we all knew that there was going to be positive tests. So hopefully on the other teams outside of the Titans, we can kind of keep it to a minimum. And I'm glad the Vikings haven't tested positive. So that's really good. So it's still same thoughts as last week. It's when they're going to, if they delay the entire, everyone a week because they're getting out of control with buys, that's when I'll start to get nervous. I mean, it might be kind of bad for the Titans depending on what kind of talent they can put out on the field, and hopefully it doesn't spread after that. But for now, I'm still the same as last week.
Yeah, the needles moved a tiny bit for me, but hey, these guys are I'm making less than a fraction of what they're making. The fact that you have to go to the high school to work out is the problem. The fact that you have all this money and we get it's your job, but there's tons of gyms you can rent out. Most of these guys have home gyms. The facility has a gym that you're allowed to use. So I'm just not sure why you're doing it at a high school. That's the thing that gets me. If that's where they got it from, obviously we're not going to know, but that makes a lot of sense. It's going to be around those schools. I work in a school. It's definitely there. So I'm just a little upset. Gilmore, I think, had dinner with Cam 2 nights before Cam tested positive.
Right.
I've been fighting the urge all day to take shots just because I'm still, we used to have just an impossible Patriots fan kind of part of our crew is no longer, but he made us just hate New England. And I wanted to just constantly take shots on Twitter and be like, what about this Patriot way? These guys are supposed to prepare better. They're supposed to know that they can't go out. They're supposed to know they're not supposed to do this better than anybody else in the league because they're the Patriot way. I'm just mentioning it. I'm not taking the shot, but I'm mentioning it. But I like Gilmore, so I hope he's fine. It's a bummer they lose him. Cam too, because I love Cam. But yeah, the needle it's moved a little, but I'm not super nervous yet. Even when, I'll be more nervous when Nick said, when they take a week off. But I think they're prepping to, if we take a week or 2 off, we're coming back. So I think football I think they're going to fight through the entire year, which might be why some coaches are getting fired and some players are getting benched. Maybe they just said, hey, this is a weird year. Let's just instead
be weird.
Yeah. I don't know, but.
Meanwhile, I'm still as nervous as I was last week, to tell you the truth. I'm more of a panicky guy, though, especially when it comes to all this COVID stuff. So that's just me personally. But the fact that it's pretty bad just for one team, I hate for it to, happen to another team. The Patriots, because we just mentioned Cam and Stephon. What if that spreads just as bad as it does for the Titans? But who knows? We don't know at this point. It's always going to be a developing case, and we're just going to have to see how it goes. But I'm kind of with you guys a bit more. I don't think NFL will be canceled. Maybe a week will have to be taken off, a week or 2, which that would be disappointing, but also it will at least, help teams out a lot, not just with COVID, but also just getting ready for, the majority of the season. So for now, I feel bad for Titans fans. That's rough, but, this was bound to happen, and we're seeing how that's progressing, So, again, just got to wait and see how this all shapes out. So anyway, let's shift from other teams over to our favorite teams. Let's give people an update on how we're feeling about them. Who wants to start here? Alex, Nick, which of you have any rants?
I'll go.
Oh, I'm taking it. No, get out of here with your 4-0. We're 1-2-1, baby. Let's go! I'm hyped. Nick's looking at me weird, like I wouldn't barge in. 1-2-1. First win, Niners. No one's healthy but Kittle, who dominates. We still get a win. Travis Fungus is what I call him. Not because I don't know his name, but because his name's Fulgrim or something like that. Fungrum.
Hey, former Packer.
Packer. Hey, true. But I call him Fungus because he's out there just getting in the way of the defense, getting touchdowns. I love it. I don't know why that's the name I came up with.
That's why you call him Fungus?
I don't know. I just yelled. I yelled it when he scored. I was like, flick him, Fungus! Yes! That's what I yelled. I was having a crazy night watching Heat and Eagles at the same time. I'm just happy we got a win. We're only hopefully getting healthier now, it sounds like. All the guys who are already been hurt are maybe going to be coming back, and nobody else is hurt. I'm down with that. That sounds pretty good to me. I don't know if we'll win next week. I just want to watch Eagles football and get sad, but that's just it. So 1-2-1, baby. 1-2-1. 1-2-1.
Finally got a win.
Yes,
yeah, that division.
Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
The NFC East games. The NFC East games are going to be wild because it's like it's probably gonna.
division
There's
games.
a decent chance if one of the teams doesn't go up, it's gonna be a 7-9 record or something worse than that. So those
Let's
games
get
are
in
gonna
at
matter.
5 wins.
That'd be funny.
Nobody
Yeah,
win again for
Packers
the
obviously
year,
looked
and we'll get in. Sorry, go ahead, Nick. Packers.
easy. Packers looked awesome. Not much to say other than Matt LaFleur's dialing it up. A regular season record. He's 17-3, 18-4 if you count the postseason. So he's had one of the greatest starts we've ever seen a head coach have in the history of the NFL. Record-wise, and feels like that's going to continue because Aaron Rodgers is on absolute heater. The one thing I'll say real quick, because we know how good the offense is even without Devontae and Allen Lazard, but even without Kenny Clark, our defense has given up a decent amount of points, but looking kind of back on it, so we've held the Falcons and Lions to their lowest scoring games of the season, and then we held the Saints to their second lowest scoring game of the season, and then Minnesota, which put up 34 on us, we held them to 9 points through 3 quarters, and then they scored some garbage time points. So our defense is actually a little bit better than what I thought it was a few weeks ago. And for us to shut down that Atlanta offense that did have Julio in the first half, awesome.
But do you lead the league in sacks like the Philadelphia Eagles do? Anyway,
no, but
Kyle.
Zadarius Smith.
Yeah,
Zadarius Smith did come to life, and he's got 5 sacks tied for the league lead by himself. So that's
let me say
time.
this.
So,
sorry, Nick. I thought you were finished there. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, just that. Yeah, Packers defense is better than I thought it was, and I think we are right now. I think we're the second best team in the NFL behind the Chiefs, and I don't think we're that far behind them.
Before, Kyle, you talk about your Hawks, we are leading. I said that yesterday to a friend of the show, our buddy Zach, and without even hesitating, that man loves to debate so much. He just goes, well, you've played some awful O-lines. Yeah, I know, but don't take what I got from me, guy. So, yeah, we played the TBDs. They don't have a great O-line. The Rams have a solid O-line.
The 49ers have a good
O-line.
O-line.
They banged up?
I don't think that much.
Not that much. Not the line, I don't think. It's the defensive line.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. We earned it. We're the best. We're 1-2-1. We're coming. Go ahead. This is what happens when I win. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah. Honestly, my thoughts about the Hawks are the same. But hey, it's great. 4-0. Russell Wilson didn't have his best game. I mean, he didn't throw any deep balls, and it wasn't 5 touchdowns like I'm normally used to. No, he still was awesome.
He's not Madden good, but he's pretty good.
He wasn't elite today. He was only amazing. No, my only concerns still are our defense, especially the secondary. I'm happy to hear that we just signed Snacks Harrison. Sorry, Nick, but go Hawks.
I'm sad.
But that's going to be great because our run defense has already been weirdly super. Like, that's the one good part of our defense. And now having Snacks in, it's just going to make our rotation even better. I'm fine that they're resting Jamal. It sounds like we're resting Jamal Adams.
I thought he was hurt.
Yeah, and we're going to rest him until he gets back. And then we'll have our bye week, and hopefully he'll come back by week 7. And hopefully that shapes up our secondary a bit more. But for now, it's still going to be that big question mark. But otherwise, 4-0 looks pretty good, all things considered. Like, I'm happy with how we are shaping up our team right now.
I got to start wording it that way. No, we're just resting everybody. Mm-hmm. We're not actually hurt. There's no problem.
We're so much nicer.
Our boys. The guy's got a groin injury, but he's resting.
We're resting. Rested up.
Brandon Brooks just needed a season-long rest. I like that. I'm saying that from now on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think on the Seahawks front, I think the Sunday night football game should be pretty interesting. It should be a fun game to watch. I think it's going to be just a lot of points because no one on the Vikings secondary, none of those cornerbacks are stopping DK, Tyler Lockett, or more.
Yeah.
But also without Jamal Adams and your pass defense, Justin Jefferson's really going to get a chance to prove me wrong. At least I wasn't super high on him coming out of the draft. Really keep tearing it up. So it should be a fun one, even though I'm sure you guys will still probably handle it pretty easily.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for me because I've really liked Justin Jefferson coming out of the draft, and he's become like my second man crush next to Adam Thielen. So seeing those two, just tear through our defense is going to be sad, but also be like, hey, that's good for those guys. Even with Kirk Cousins, that's nice. So. Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, and you got Dalvin on fantasy, so you're going to be secretly rooting for them Vikings this weekend.
I think you're just a Viking fan. You're just a low-key Patriots and Vikings fan over there. You're such a big boy with Adam Thielen.
It's like the Colts. I just like how they construct their team.
Well,
mine's the secondary for the Vikings. But anyway, so we got all our teams out of the way. Alex got to yell some happy thoughts for once about the team.
Gotta get those yells in, baby.
Flexed up.
Yeah, what a different vibe from Alex from last week. Last week the world was crumbling, and now this week he's like, "Well, we're the best team to ever exist in the NFC East."
Look, do I really believe this off air? I don't know, but I'm on air and an Eagle fan, and you got to represent Philly the right way, and we coming. If not, we're punching police horses. Like we do, throwing bottles. We get fans back next week in the facility, and that is needed if we play bad, because I want them to boo the crap out of the team.
As you should. As we should.
Anyway.
All right. So let's move on then to our over and under segment. Let's talk about things that are being overreacted to in the NFL and underreacted in the NFL. So who wants to start off this one? No one wants to start this one off?
I can go.
There we go.
So I'm going to do an underrated, and I don't even know, this could have been one of mine the last couple weeks, but I still think it's underrated. So I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I still think are undervalued. They are definitely, it seems so far like a three-headed race in the NFC with the Packers, Buccaneers, and Seahawks.
And the 1-2 and 1 Eagles.
And the 1-2 Eagles. Maybe the Rams are probably right behind there, and probably the Saints in a little bit if they get back to it. But for them to be 3-1, you're seeing Tom Brady come back after being down 5 touchdowns. Chris Godwin isn't even in. Rob Gronkowski has looked better every single week. The last 2 weeks, he's started to get a lot more targets. This offense is scary. I'm not huge on Leonard Fournette, but even when he's healthy, he'll add another dimension alongside Ronald Jones, who's a decent running back. Their interior offensive line has been dominant, and they have the best run defense or second best run defense in the NFL because they have that great linebacker core. The secondary has played a little bit better than I thought it would. This team is a complete team. I need to see it for a few more weeks before I kind of consider them a top 3 team. I think they're right around probably 4 or 5 right now. But I think they are gonna scare either probably Packers, Seahawks, Rams. I think the Bucs are right in there, and I think for them to be this good this early is big time. And in 2 weeks, they have a big game. They're the Thursday night game. They play tomorrow. I honestly don't think they're going to have much trouble dealing with the Bears team that should not have 3 wins probably, and a big-time matchup between the Packers and Buccaneers in Week 6. But, yeah, I just think they're incredible, and they scare me. They're really good.
Yeah, they terrify me as well. That team, like you said, it's firing on all cylinders. They're a loaded team. They're going to be good, but it feels like people know that Tom Brady is there, so of course they were going to be good. I think that's why they're not really talked about that much, but I agree with you. I think
Howard's going to hurt.
Yeah, for sure.
How bad it's going to affect him.
I don't think it'll change that much because Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard wasn't even as good as Cameron Brate last year. He's just had a higher ceiling that he just kind of started to hit. I think I think a lot of us expected this Tampa Bay team to really not get this complete, but after 4 games to have us saying that they're already firing on all cylinders is unbelievable. We've seen a lot of teams on paper look good and not perform. And Tom Brady, he's had a couple of bad pick sixes, but other than that, has looked incrable.
He's thrown deep balls.
Yeah, he's
throwing
them
again.
Balls.
Yeah.
It's just they're better than I thought they would be. They had 1 game really to just knock off some rust, and they've won 3 straight. And I would not be shocked. I think the Packers should have a good chance to beat them. But I would not be shocked if they win their next 2 games, and all of a sudden, if the Packers drop a game and Kansas City plays Buffalo in the next few weeks, I wouldn't be shocked if in 2 weeks we're calling the Buccaneers the best team in football.
They also have an awesome schedule because they got a last place schedule, so they are playing some teams that were not very good last year and turned out they're not very good this year either.
Thanks, Jameis. Alex, what about you? What do you got?
I think people are not reacting enough to how bad the Cowboys not winning it really is. I think the narrative is the division's bad, and the Cowboy. And I've seen some people, like the big pundits, like Skip Bayless, guys like that, saying, "Well, the Eagles are better." And I do think we have a better roster, and we would play better if we were healthy. I don't necessarily know if we're better right now, but the fact that this team is pretty much healthy, their defense is horrible. I mean, the Browns got playmakers, obviously, but they haven't necessarily had an elite year even last year where they're throwing up this massive amount of points, and they lit them up. Obviously, they made a little comeback, and it feels like their players are on offense are somehow good enough to keep them in games when it's crunch time, mainly because the defense on the other side gets lax and they go into just protection mode. But people are acting like this isn't a big deal. I said it before the year started. Dak Prescott, to me, doesn't have the it factor, and I don't think that's why they want to keep him. He's not winning games when it matters. Even Wentz has the it factor because he's the reason we won last game. He put us in position to win the Bengals game, and a bad decision by Doug and a bad penalty on the special teams caused us not to win that game. But Wentz put us in position to win when nothing else worked. Dak isn't necessarily doing that. I mean, he is coming back. They did have the one great comeback, but the greats do it. And I just don't see it from Dak all the time, and I think people are not reacting to how bad this is enough. I think the fire is lit there. Like, this is not good. I think the panic button needs to be hit in Dallas.
I'm weird with Dak. Like, I know, like, with Dallas, like, they're seeing, having to make major comebacks, and the defense is really bad. And you're right to a point that, like, Dak isn't, like, becoming clutch and getting them over the hump to win those comebacks. But also, Dak is looking really good, I think, when it comes to at least making those comebacks in the first place. I blame this more on coaching, to be honest, but I agree with you that the panic button should be pressed there, and it should be because of Mike McCarthy. I mean, personally, I wasn't a fan of that hiring to begin with. I didn't see that as game-changing, and, I think I stand by that still. Like, yes, their offense is looking great, and they're making these crazy comebacks in order to make the games tighter, but they got to get a coach that makes sure that this team rallies and makes sure to get over the hump. And yes, that includes Dak Prescott. He needs to make sure to do that himself. But with what Dak's doing, despite bad coaching, in order to get the team to at least make comebacks, I think that's a good sign. I think that it's reason enough to maybe they should at least take a chance with Dak and be able to sign him. That's at least me personally. But I blame this more on coaching, but
I'm with
you. Blame it. Yeah, I'm with you as well. It's just more on coaching and less on, Dak as a player, because each year Dak. Yes, yeah, he is, but I don't think he's the sole reason. While I think some people are saying that it is. So
sure.
Can I go on a little rant here for a second?
Are you gonna yell at me? If you're yelling at me, no. Are you yelling how great that 1-2-1 Eagles are? No. Then yes.
4 years. Everyone was like, Aaron Rodgers can't work with Mike McCarthy. Aaron Rodgers is the problem in Green Bay. Are you kidding me? Mike McCarthy has been a joke right now. And this is the same thing in the 2018 Green Bay Packers. Their best player on offense for the Dallas Cowboys right now, Dak's been awesome. Amari's awesome. It's Ezekiel Elliott. Anyone with eyeballs knows that. They don't run with him early in the game. They're not utilizing him enough. And it's exactly like when we didn't commit to Aaron Jones in 2018, and then we committed to Aaron Jones in 2019. Look what happened. And for years, I've gone, Mike McCarthy teams often get hurt a lot. The Dallas Cowboys have already had a decent amount of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. And even though Mike McCarthy isn't a defensive mind, his teams have been known for giving up huge plays and just, on the defensive side of the ball, just whatever's going on with his coaching, the Packers would just have so many miscommunications and people just wouldn't be bought into what's going on. You saw that on full display in the Seattle game where Tyler Lockett was cooking tea back there because that's how much time he had for Russell Wilson to send him a pass.
Yeah.
Which was wide open. And you saw it again with, what are they doing? And I know he's not calling the plays on offense either. It's Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
But Mike McCarthy teams, right now, all the people who were getting pretty heated about how Aaron Rodgers is uncoachable because him and Mike McCarthy didn't have a great relationship.
Get out of here.
I'm now stuck thinking about how many Super Bowls could we have if we would have moved off of Mike McCarthy a lot sooner.
I want to point this out real quick too. Sorry.
I don't think he's I just think he might not be the only issue there. I think if they get a good defensive coordinator, that could change things. So their defense is just terrible.
Their players are bad.
Their approach to the game has to change on offense. You have Ezekiel Elliott and a bad defense. You should be just running the ball, eating clock, letting that defense rest as long as possible, and just dink and dunk. You've got CeeDee Lamb is great after the catch, Amari Cooper. You don't need to be just shotgun, 3-step drop, bomb it every single play, and it seems like that's what they've been doing, and it works to an extent.
Or it's a short dump off.
They're just not utilizing the talent that they have on this roster, and maybe he gets into it better, but it's not a good look for Mike McCarthy when you see Matt LaFleur go 17-3, right after he leaves.
Also, Dak, 39 times he's thrown, 47, 57, and 58.
That's not good.
Are the stats part of just the fact that they're forcing him to throw so much and not using one of the best running backs in football? Yes, that's part of it. The fact that he throws 500 yards and 4 touchdowns in the last game, and he's thrown so many touchdowns and yards, you shouldn't be throwing that much. You don't want a QB throwing 40, 50 times a game. Mm-hmm. You want to lean on your run and have those big plays open up, and that's why they're not winning.
Yeah, totally right. For me, it's kind of I'm trying to figure out how to word this. It's kind of like I feel like people might overreact, especially Rams fans, but the fact that the Rams only won 17-3 against a really bad Giants team might freak some people out. I wouldn't say don't worry. I think that was kind of like a weird fluke that happened. I think that next week they're going to be firing back like they normally do on offense. Their defense has been stepping up pretty well too, so I haven't really heard anyone like just really pressing the panic button or nothing, but I'm sure that there's Rams fans and maybe some few people looking at that be like, what the heck happened there? What
should have been
Giants?
Easy win, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It should have been a lot worse than it actually turned out to be. I just think it was just a weird day, weird happenstance, and I just want to warn people, don't overreact about it. Unfortunately, the Rams are still going to be good, which is bad for my Seahawks, but
yeah, I actually think it's kind of a good thing for the Rams as a team, just because obviously you want to blow out everyone and they are a lot more talented, but we've seen, like last year, the Packers, and when you look at the Packers, Cowboys, Seahawks, Packers and Seahawks were awesome in one-score games, and a lot of games come down to one-score games. Packers had a really low plus or minus for being a 13-win team. The Seahawks were the exact same way for being an 11-win team. And the Cowboys blew out a bunch of teams, but they lost all. So they had a way bigger plus or minus at 8-8 than both the Seahawks and Packers. But they went 8-8 because they couldn't win close games. So the fact that, it's going to happen, a bad team's going to play up to it. The Giants are definitely worse than I thought they were going to be.
They're bad.
They're real bad. And
called it.
And it's that was a close game, but the fact that they could hold on to it and hold on to a lead, it gave me a little confidence in this Rams team going forward that they can be a real contender. Even if they don't end up winning the division, they'll definitely scare a division winner in the wild card round, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Real quick, there was a little bit of breaking news.
I was going to mention it.
Yeah, the Titans might be getting some sort of hefty punishment due to
severely punishment by the NFL, huh?
Yes. We'll see how it goes. They haven't said much else about it yet, but that might be something that we'll talk about next week. If it's, I don't know, they lose one game or whatever this next upcoming game, they just get an automatic L maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're thinking. That's just a guess.
Forfeit would be intense.
I bet it's fines.
Fines.
Odds are
Heavy
it probably
fines.
will be fines. Odds are it probably will be. I'm thinking
Or
worst
suspensions.
case scenario.
Right.
Depending
Maybe
on the
they
players.
suspend
Yeah.
the players.
I think they should have to go give Roger Goodell a sponge bath, each individual player and coach.
Goodell's
And Aaron
like,
Rodgers.
"Ooh."
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, and come give all your ACLs and Achilles to the Eagles while you're at it.
Major punishments. Okay.
All right, let's wrap this show up.
Yeah, let's talk about what has surprised us in week 4 of the NFL.
Nick?
What do you guys got?
Now, Alex, you're leading off.
All right.
You want to know my
Alex?
surprise? I've been waiting to talk about it. I decided what my surprise was on Monday Night Football, and it's Nick's Green Bay Packers.
Let's go.
They don't look just good. I think they look top dollar bills, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
I watch them.
Oh, yeah.
And I am like, this is leading up to being whoever of the other good teams, Hawks, Bucks, Saints in the NFC, that 2-1-2 Eagles, whoever they play, it's got to be Green Bay and somebody else in the championship to me right now. They are balling, and they start maybe a little slow, but when Matt LaFleur gets going, his guys are healthy. He says, we're rolling. They use Aaron Jones. The fact that Aaron's taking shots at Mike McCarthy and all the other QBs in the league and saying, on Pat McAfee's show saying, what did he said? A down year for me is a great year for most other QBs.
Career year. Hey, wait,
Love
Alex.
it.
It's just the facts.
It's
just the
facts.
It is the facts.
Nick and I used to be heated rivals in sports. We used to weirdly hate each other, and over the last few years, we've slowly just become bandwagoners on each other's team.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And is it Nick
so
and I
hyped
that
right
brought
now.
ourselves together, or is it people we know? It might be people we know.
Yeah.
But it's not our brotherly undying love. But I'm for it. I love that Green Bay is rolling. I love that Aaron is flexing in the camera. I love that they're dancing. It reminds me of the 2017 Eagles, where they're so good that they're just having fun being good. And I love that. You get that with Patty, and I love that Green Bay is doing it. They're my surprise. I think they're awesome. I think they are going to be so good this year. Continue to be. I love it.
Can I jump on this too?
Yeah, but I don't love the bye week. I wish you had a later bye week.
No, I think the bye week is actually good for how the season is laid out, because Kenny Clark hasn't played since the first half of the Minnesota game. Devontae Adams hasn't played since the beginning of the second half of the Lions game. And we play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If we come out of the bye healthy and are able to beat the Buccaneers with, a little bit of dominance, I think it'll be a big message.
Not healthy.
To the league.
Awake. You're awake. You were rested. You were resting.
Oh,
now you're
awake.
You're
That's
awake.
what
You're
Kyle,
here to
what were you
play.
saying?
That's what we say on this show. Guys aren't injured. They're just resting. They just got to rest for a minute.
The Eagles are resting, everyone.
No, I wanted to jump on that too, because I think it's a testament to how good of a coach Matt LaFleur is and what you guys have needed this whole time. Because in the offseason, everyone was saying, oh, they didn't get weapons for Rodgers. They didn't get, the star wide receiver or a star guy in the draft necessarily. But that's because Matt LaFleur looked at the talent that he has and he goes, you know what, under Aaron Rodgers and the way I scheme out, all these different sorts of talents, like I can easily make this like a top offense. Like Aaron Jones is already
I said that on this show, that maybe Green Bay liked who they had, even though the fans didn't, and that's why they didn't take a wide receiver. They got better at all the other positions they needed help with when everyone demanded it be receiver. Rodgers wanted it to be receiver, and he's saying, hang on, let's see if these young guys work. If they didn't work, obviously we'd be screaming at you, but it's working.
Well, they did draft a running back in the second round when you got Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. But anyway, nevertheless, though, despite the draft being weird, that's what I'm getting at. Despite the draft being weird, despite free agency not being the best, it's because Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers looked at their guys and they probably said, if we scheme this just right, we can go on a tear with this crew. And that's clearly showing. Yeah, it's against the Falcons when everyone saw that on notice. But at the same time, it still made me very, very concerned about possibly playing you in like the playoffs. And Nick, with this little Packer smirk, I
so
saw
I
that
have to
come
play
out.
I have to play
Little
both
Aaron
this year.
smirk.
Jerk.
Stinks.
No,
All right, Nick, what's your surprise?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, real quick, I have a little bit different feeling about the draft. Every week goes by, I think the draft is even more absurd how bad it is, to be honest. And when you hear about Matt LaFleur talks, because the draft seemed like they were okay, they picked Jordan Love, put that aside, but AJ Dillon and Joshua DeGuara, who I like DeGuara, and he got hurt. Actually, he's out for the season. He got hurt on Monday night.
He's just taking a long rest.
Long rest.
We call that a
big
snap.
right.
He's just sleeping for the year.
He's just
but
sleeping.
Our draft still, when you look at our team, it still doesn't make a lot of sense. Where when they drafted, they were kind of acting like we were going to become the new 49ers and try to run the ball the entire time and get really physical. And then that's kind of been the opposite of what we've been doing so far, even though we haven't run the ball any differently than we did last year. And then we're starting an undrafted free agent rookie at middle linebacker every game this year so far. And as good as he's been, it's kind of a tough
concerning.
choice, I think.
Yeah,
it's an odd choice. It's like Patrick Queen was right there to take, and you waited. You didn't even draft anyone, and you picked up a rookie, and he's starting. Okay, that some odd choices by Brian, but Matt LaFleur, love him. He's done amazing job. But yeah, my biggest surprise. And I was kind of thinking about it and looking at their schedule, and it's a team we just talked about a little bit. And a team that didn't play last week. I'm going to talk about the Tennessee Titans.
The Tennessee Titans?
The Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans.
All COVID aside, this team's actually pretty good. And I only haven't played that many great opponents, but looking at their schedule, honestly, they might not lose a game if they get back onto it and they're decently healthy with all COVID. If putting that aside for a second, honestly, they could start 7-2, 8-1. That's how viable their schedule is. They have a couple of dicey games, but they're a lot better than I gave them credit for. And I think their curse of going 9-7, if they're healthy out of all this COVID stuff, is going to be broken because they're going to win more games, not because they're worse. Every year it seems like they stumble into 9 wins and they weren't that good. This year it feels like they're good and they know their identity, and it's such an odd year, even with all this going on. So unless things get real hairy with COVID, I would be shocked if this team doesn't end up getting 10 wins.
Look, I don't know if that's going to happen, but what I do know is that if Ryan Tannehill comes back and wins, 7-something game and just balls out, all that says is Adam Gase is a big problem because been good, I am good, and he should be fired. But go ahead, Kyle.
I was just going to say I don't buy it just yet. Schedule may look good, but I learned last year that the Titans will be Titans and they'll always go 9-7, and I'm still sticking by that. So yeah, but I could be wrong again, but I'm not totally buying it.
But another difference with the Titans last year is that their 9-7 led to them beating a 14-2 Ravens team in the playoffs. And it was the first year, it was since Ryan Tannehill's started for them, they've been a lot better than a 9-7 team. It just happened to be that switch. COVID concerns me because, if you lose a couple of your good players, you're going to, it is, probably a big deal, but the defense is still pretty good. And the offense knows, how to play keep away. And Corey Davis has played really well. He's been a bust for them, and he's played really well. So he's on
the COVID list now.
Oh, he is, but hopefully he'll be back in a few weeks at least. And but the Titans are a team I never really think about that much. It's like, oh, they're just a mediocre team every year.
Yeah.
They actually, they're probably not as good as the Bills, the top tier teams, Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, but they're better than I gave them credit for, I think, going into the season, especially with the Texans being not very good. And I still want to wait and see it with the Colts a little bit more than the Titans. But yeah, I think they're a pretty solid team. I would not be shocked if they win 11 games this year.
Can I know we're finishing off. Can I end it here on 2 things here? One off the Titans and then one thing I wanted to end on.
Yeah, Alex, take it away.
The Titans, I do want to point out too, if they are breaking protocol, that's also on your coaching and your staff who are, I gave a little bit of flack to, the Patriot Way and stuff, and obviously going to a dinner and taking every precaution. I work with people who have tested positive for COVID-19. I work decently closely with people who have been doing everything right. So you can do everything right and still something happens. But were they actually actively violating it? Were they being the Marlins? Were they doing something like that? That, I think, is a big question the NFL has to face. And I think that's why we're seeing this fine possibility and this big punishment, because if they are, the NFL needs to crack down on that. This is on you. It's not just that it got in. It's on you. And then the last thing I want to end on is we live in Montana. So I want to give a shout out because I think it's always great when Montana players do something great. We all three went to Montana State University, and then Nick and I have a weird history with University of Montana that maybe we'll one day get into. But so I always, anybody from Montana, either big college here, I always shout out. Alex Singleton for the Eagles, who's been a special team guy on our team, gets his first career pick and pick 6. And the Eagles signed Dante Olson, who played for the University of Montana, who was great. He was like all defense, the number 1 defensive player here when he played in our conference. He's great, and I've wanted us to keep him, and we finally are bringing him back. We need linebacker help. I just want to throw shout-outs to those guys. There's a couple other Montana boys out there. I think Seattle has one. I think the Rams have one.
Will Dissly, baby.
That's right, Will Dissly. Well, Will Dissly is from Montana, where these guys just came to play college here. But still, I give any of those shout outs, if that continues to happen through the year, I'm going to shout them out because I love seeing that.
Yeah, we love it. We love it, man.
Because it rarely happens.
All right, so I think that's going to wrap up today's episode then. We covered everything. So, hey, listeners, viewers, thank you guys so much for following and listening and watching our stuff. We really do appreciate it. Please be sure to like, subscribe, share. We're on YouTube, but as well as on all podcast platforms. So please check us out there. Please spread the word. We're just, trying to give our thoughts and opinions, just a couple of friends giving our thoughts on sports, and we just love doing it. So thank you to you guys. Too. Oh, yeah, we're on Instagram and Twitter, so just check us out on those platforms as well. So, yeah, awesome episode again, guys, and we'll do this again soon.
See ya. Go Birds. 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, and 1.
Audio Jungle.